Hey everyone, I am Nate and welcome back to Hype Up. It's now time for another top 10 list. In today's video, we are going to be having a look at another top 10 Disney mistakes that you might have missed, all because you seem to have really enjoyed the first video we did. In at number 10 is Frozen. With Frozen 2 just around the corner, what better time to go back and explore all of the mistakes you may have missed in the first one? During the song Reindeers Are Better Than People, Kristoff is playing a 4-string guitar. But if you look closely, you'll see that the instrument only has 3 tuning pegs. Somehow the instrument still sounds perfectly in tune though. It looks like the animators really skipped a beat with this one. In at number 9 is Cars. Disney's 2006 film Cars was a strange film about personified vehicles. The mistake we're looking at today isn't Disney's decision to give the franchise 2 sequels and the spin-off of Planes before we got Incredibles 2 in 2018. A fact that drives me crazy, but instead of a mistake found in the tractor tipping scene. In this scene, Mater tips 2 tractors by scaring them with a noise to show McQueen how it's done. When McQueen gives it a go on a larger scale, the film cuts to a wide shot of the field to show the rest of the tractors tipping. The mistake here is that the tractors Mater tipped moments earlier are nowhere to be seen. Ka-chow! In at number 8 is Finding Dory. The sequel to Finding Nemo was a great film and introduced an even greater character, Hank the Octopus. In one scene, Hank hides in a coffee pot to camouflage himself and his entire body fills the space. This means that all of the water in the pot should have spilled out, right? Wrong. When Hank leaves the coffee pot, we see that the water remains. This mistake might seem fishy, but I'm glad that Hank is a glass pot half full kind of guy, because the water is still there, as the alternative would have been Dory gasping for water in an empty glass pot. It'd be hard to just keep swimming if you're suffocating. In at number 7 is Toy Story. Toy Story was on our last Disney mistakes as well, but this time instead of a question of existential crisis, it's a continuity error. At the beginning of the film, the toy soldiers are scouting Andy's birthday party, reporting to Woody and the other toys about his new presents. The soldiers hide one end of a baby monitor in a plant to communicate, but the half they use is actually the handheld half, which only acts as the speaker. The half of the baby monitor that includes an actual microphone is on Andy's bedside table, meaning Woody and the other toys shouldn't have been able to hear anything from the soldiers at all. Sounds like they didn't really think this one through. In at number 6 is Aladdin. In the film, Princess Jasmine has a pet tiger named Raja, who is quite protective of her. We see this multiple times throughout the film, including during a scene where he bites the butt of one of Jasmine's suitors. While the scene is pretty hilarious, there is a roaring continuity mistake within the scene. The suitor is wearing purple pants, which are torn when Raja takes his bite. Underneath the purple pants, we see a pair of perfectly intact white boxes with red hearts on them. But when we cut to the next shot of Raja, the fabric he has in his mouth matches the boxes, not the pants. I suppose we shouldn't get too butthurt over this mistake though. The rest of the film is pretty great. In at number 5 is Pocahontas. We've been throwing a lot of shade at Disney in this list, but let me illuminate you with another. This mistake pops up in the Disney classic Pocahontas. In one scene, Pocahontas is walking with her friend toward a group of guards at night. The lighting behind them provides shadows of the characters on the ground in front of them, and it's here we see the mistake. While Pocahontas and her friend are clearly holding hands, their shadows are not. In at number 4 is Tangled. Tangled follows the classic story of Rapunzel, who was locked away in a tower by her evil stepmother until she was found by a charming prince. Well, a thief in the case of the film. In the film, Rapunzel's hair has magical healing properties, which is apparently why her stepmother never cut it. At the end of the film, Flynn cuts her hair off, apparently rendering its power gone as it all turns brown. If the hair really does have healing properties that come from within Rapunzel herself though, as we see her tears also have healing properties, why does the hair on her head turn brown? Shouldn't it only be the ends that are cut off that lose the power? Don't get your hair in a knot over this mistake though. Tangled is still a pretty great film. In at number 3 is Cinderella. In the classic Disney film Cinderella, the girl is saved by her fairy godmother, who performs miracle magic to transform a pumpkin into a carriage, a battered dress into a beautiful gown, and other amazing feats that would seem impossible without magic. While magic is a common theme in Disney films, there is something afoot with this particular miracle. The fairy godmother tells Cinderella that the spell will only last until midnight, after which everything will change back to normal. Fair terms for a miracle, I guess, but then why don't the slippers change back to normal with everything else? Also, while we're talking about the slippers, why does one fall off at all if it's supposed to be a perfect fit? One step forward, two glass slippers back. In at number 2 is Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. is set in a world of monsters where they harvest the screams of children to power the city. This could very easily have been a horror film. Anyway, in this film, our protagonists Mike and Sully actually discover that laughter is much more powerful when a child named Boo stumbles into their world. Her laughter proves to be strong enough to create massive power outages. But the laughable mistake made here is that Boo is pretty much constantly giggling throughout the film, but power isn't generated all the time. So why don't all of her laughs have the same effect? The filmmakers actually admit this inconsistency, explaining that it posed too many challenges if they followed the rule from the beginning to end, so they just ignored it. Before we reveal what number 1 is, what have you thought of the list so far? Have you seen any of these errors before, or did you know of them already? Let us know in the comment section down below. But it is now time for number 1. In at number 1 for more Disney mistakes is Up. What's up? Well, not this house, that's for sure. Look, most Disney films are based in some kind of fantasy, so I guess we can't be too harsh when picking apart the science of particular aspects of the films. So we'll keep that in mind here. In the film, Carl is able to lift his entire house up into the air using hundreds of helium-filled balloons. First of all of the plumbing and wiring connecting to the house to the ground would have been an issue here, not to mention that standard helium balloons ultimately break once they've reached a high enough altitude due to air pressure. So even if the house was initially lifted, it wouldn't stay that way for too long. Fun fact, this was actually done in real life by the National Geographic, but the house was custom built for this feat, and also the balloons were specifically designed weather balloons, not your run-of-the-mill helium balloons that you might get from the fair. It's fun to dream though, right? Did you enjoy the video? If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and check out these other videos over here. I'm Nate, this is Hype Hub, and we'll see you all next time.